March 28, 1941. The Ionian Sea, south of Greece. 10:15 at night. No moon, no wind. The water is black and flat. 3 British battleships are moving in a line, blacked out, silent, cutting through the dark at 6 knots. Their guns are already trained out to starboard. Their crews are already at action stations. They have been waiting for this moment for hours. Ahead of them, 2 Italian heavy cruisers are sailing into a trap they cannot see. And at the front of the British formation, leading the line into the darkness, is a cruiser that the naval press had been writing off for 3 years. 2 lightly armored, undergunned against modern rivals. A treaty compromise built down to a limit rather than up to a fighting standard. The kind of ship that looks acceptable on paper and inadequate in a real fight. In the next 10 minutes, that ship is going to help destroy 3 Italian warships so completely that the Italian Navy will never risk its heavy ships in a fleet action again. This is the story of the night the obsolete cruiser became the most dangerous ship in the Mediterranean. March 1941. The Italian fleet is a problem the British cannot ignore. The Regia Marina has 6 battleships, 22 cruisers, and over 100 destroyers. It controls the central Mediterranean. British convoys to Malta and Egypt are running a gauntlet that is costing ships and men the Royal Navy cannot replace. The Italians have numbers, position, and modern ships on their side. What they do not have is radar. What they do not have is night fighting doctrine. What they do not have is any idea what is about to happen to them. German pressure on Rome has forced the Italian fleet to act. Admiral Angelo Iacaino takes his flagship, the battleship Vittorio Veneto, to sea on the 26th of March with a powerful force. 8 heavy cruisers, destroyers. Their mission, find a British convoy route and destroy it. The Luftwaffe has told Rome the route is vulnerable. The intelligence is wrong, and the British already know the Italians are coming. Ultra intercepts. Signals decoded at Bletchley Park. Admiral Sir Andrew Cunningham has Iacaino's sailing orders before the Italian fleet has cleared harbor. He does not show it. He is seen leaving his flagship in Alexandria carrying a suitcase and a set of golf clubs, putting on a performance for Italian spies he knows are watching. That evening, he slips back aboard. The Mediterranean fleet sails after dark. Now, to understand what happens next, you have to understand what the cruiser at the front of the British line actually is. Because on paper, she is nothing special. She is a treaty cruiser, built to the strict limits of the 1930 London Naval Treaty. Under 10,000 tons, 8 8-inch guns in 4 twin turrets. Armor measured in inches, not feet. 3 inches at most over her machinery spaces. Naval writers in the 1930s called the whole class a false economy. Heavy cruiser guns on a light cruiser hull, vulnerable to anything that could close the range. By 1941, with better protected cruisers entering service in Germany, Italy, and Japan, critics considered the design outdated before the war had reached its 2nd year. What the critics were not measuring was what had been built into the ship since she was commissioned, and what 2 years of war had done to her crew. She carries Type 279 air warning radar, one of the first operational sets fitted to a British cruiser. Her fire control systems have been trained and drilled for night action specifically. Her searchlight crews have practiced finding and holding a target in complete darkness. Her gunnery directors have been integrated with those searchlights to bring a target under accurate fire within seconds of illumination, not minutes. Seconds. The Royal Navy has been developing this exact capability since its pre-war exercises identified night fighting as the one scenario where British fire control doctrine held a decisive edge over every potential enemy. This ship and her crew are the result of that investment. The ship herself is average. The institution behind her is not. If you are enjoying this look at how the Royal Navy turned doctrine into the most one-sided night action of the entire war, a quick subscribe helps the channel keep producing deep dives like this one. March 28th. Early evening. British torpedo bombers from the carrier Formidable find the Italian fleet during the afternoon. They put a torpedo into Vittorio Veneto, slowing her down. Then they find the heavy cruiser Pola and hit her too. Pola goes dead in the water. Her engines stop. She is drifting. Iacaino does not know the British battle fleet is anywhere near him. He sends 2 heavy cruisers back to rescue Pola. There are 4 destroyers with them. He is sending his ships into the dark, directly across the path of Cunningham's battleships, with no idea what is waiting for them. 10:03 at night. The cruiser at the head of the British line picks up a radar contact. Large ships, 6 miles. Clothing. She reports it immediately to Cunningham's flagship. The contact resolves. The Italian rescue force, Zara and Fiume in column. 4 destroyers, steaming toward the drifting Pola with no idea anything is within 20 miles of them. Cunningham closes the range in total silence. 10:27. The British battle line comes within 4,000 yards of the Italian column. 4,000 yards. That is point-blank range for guns of any caliber. At this distance, a miss is nearly impossible. The order comes. Searchlights on. The cruiser's beam catches Fiume broadside. Full length. Her turrets are still trained fore and aft. Her guns are not loaded. She has no idea this is happening. Behind the cruiser, Warship, Valiant, and Barham open fire with their 15-inch guns. Valiant opens fire at Fiume at a range so short the guns can barely depress enough to aim. The first salvo hits. The second hits. Fiume is on fire within 60 seconds. She rolls over and sinks within 20 minutes. Zara, caught in the same beams, takes the same fire. She is set ablaze and reduced to a wreck before the first minute is over. British destroyers finish her with torpedoes before dawn. 2 of the 4 Italian destroyers, Vittorio Alfieri and Josue Cardiolochi, are torn apart by the same close-range broadsides and go down in the same brief engagement. Pola, still drifting, unable to fight, is boarded, her crew taken off, and then sunk. 10 minutes. 3 Italian warships destroyed. A 4th scuttled before dawn. The cruiser at the front of the line did not fire the shells that sank Zara and Fiume. Those came from the battleships behind her. What the cruiser did was find the Italians in the dark when nothing else could. Her radar contact report at 10:03 gave Cunningham the position and course of the Italian force in time to maneuver his entire battle line into an ambush. Her searchlight crews, drilled for exactly this scenario, found and held the target the instant the order came. Without that radar pickup and that searchlight discipline, the Italian column might have passed in the dark entirely, or the engagement might have opened at a range where Italian torpedoes could have changed the outcome. The cruiser that critics called obsolete was the trigger. Everything that followed came from what she did in those 4 minutes between the radar contact and the order to illuminate. Italian casualties that night: 2,303 men killed, including Admiral Carlo Cattaneo, the squadron commander. British casualties: 1 aircraft and its crew, lost the following day to friendly fire during the rescue operations. Not a single British ship was hit. The strategic consequence was immediate and permanent. Cape Matapan was the last time the Italian fleet committed its heavy ships to a major surface engagement against the Royal Navy for the rest of the war. Mussolini's navy, the 4th largest in the world at the war's outbreak, effectively withdrew from contesting British control of the eastern Mediterranean at sea. It never recovered the initiative it lost that night. The convoy routes to Malta and Egypt, fought over since 1940, became significantly safer for British shipping. The chain of operations that eventually cleared the Mediterranean, that supplied the 8th Army, that made the North African victory possible, ran through the decision made at Cape Matapan to trust a cruiser with outdated hull specifications and an exceptional crew. The ship went on to serve through the rest of the Mediterranean campaign, through Crete, through the Sicily landings, through the Italian invasion. Her supposedly obsolete hull in the front line years after the critics had declared her finished. Her crew adding to a record that had started with a radar contact in the dark south of Greece and ended with a navy that had stopped fighting rather than faced them again. What Cape Matapan proved was not that the treaty cruiser was a good design. It was not. Her armor was thin. Her displacement was a political compromise. Naval architects had been correctly identifying her limitations since the day she was launched. What the night proved was something else entirely. A ship is only as obsolete as the doctrine behind her. The same hull, in a navy that had not invested in night fighting drill, in radar integration, in searchlight coordination, in officers trained to act immediately the moment a contact was confirmed, would have been exactly as vulnerable as her specifications suggested. In the hands of a crew drilled for precisely this kind of engagement, she became the instrument of the most complete tactical destruction the Royal Navy inflicted on an enemy's surface force in the entire war. The critics had measured her guns and her armor. They had not measured what she could do in the dark.